Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. We're here today with Reed Hayes, research scientist for the University of Florida and the director of the Loss Prevention Research Council. Joining us is Chad McIntosh, the vice president of loss prevention and risk management for Bloomingdale's, and Tom Meehan, the director of technology loss prevention at Bloomingdale's as well. As LP's research or evidence-based practice brain trust, the LPRC studies virtually every aspect of loss prevention, from strategy, analytics, manpower, technology, the various forms of loss, theft, fraud, robbery, as well as store and parking lot violence and deaths. The LPRC delivers actionable information that drives results. Our world of retailing presents multiple and evolving violent, data, brand, and property crime risk. As an LP leader, you should find out where over 40 retail chains are going now and how they're getting there and how your team can fully engage. With that, Chad, I'd like to ask you a question. You've successfully served as a field and corporate leader at all levels in retail LP. What's the real value to you and any retailer of engaging with the LPRC?
There's several values in the proposition of being a member in LPRC. First of all, the membership, the retail membership, drives the agenda of the organization, so it's focused on the problems that we are seeing and living with day in and day out. So the true value is bringing together retailers focused on a common goal to really kind of improve processes in our stores today. So what I have found, not only is the value in being part of that membership, but really applying science and data to problem solving. Asset protection guys are very famous for taking a problem, throwing 5 things at the problem, and solving the problem, not knowing which one had the right level of impact that you want going forward. So using LPRC and the science behind problem solving helps us determine what's the one focus we need to take, get the ROI on that focus, and move forward. I will tell you that each year in October, LPRC has an impact conference, and at the impact conference, it is the best place in the country today to see retailers and vendors working together to solve problems. It's the only conference where you can actually see that in action. So probably the most important benefit to me is the education and the thought-provoking solutions that my team comes up with today because of their involvement in LPRC. They think differently today about solving problems. They don't take a traditional approach. While they still serve us well, we have to think differently in today's world in problem solving, and LPRC helps my team do that.
You know, Reed, how do you and your group work with your members in your innovation lab, in their local stores and DCs, and in their corporate offices? I mean, how do you deliver that? How do you work with those folks?
The main way is we have 11 working groups, and those groups meet every month together, mostly by phone, sometimes webinars, and even infrequently together physically. And so those working groups are driven by leaders, in this case like Tom, that have a pre-planning call. They have objectives for their working group, and things like supply chain protection, ORC of course, in-store product protection, violent crime control, retail fraud, whether in-store or online, and their issues. So each of those working groups has a mission statement and a set of objectives, and then they have deliverables. They like to deliver 2 to 4 projects a year. But each of those working group calls and groups are facilitated by one of our research scientists, including me, and we're on there to help move things along when they need it, take notes, but most importantly, to go off and find out through research what that group needs to know. So some of them have called it brainstorming with a little more of a brain because we're helping them do that. The lab in Gainesville is half and half. One half is a local decision-making lab, and so it looks like a store, hard and soft goods. We've got 74 technologies in that lab designed to be sensors at all levels before they get to the store, parking lot, in the store, at the asset itself, those zones of influence. So they're generating information for that decision maker now. We're integrating radio and smart device into that. And then they have tools. They have tons of tools they can do to deter people and detect them and things like that. So via the lab, the working group calls, Chad mentioned the Impact Conference, and then through monthly webinars, we integrate with them or interact with everybody. So that's just some examples of how we do it.
How do you conduct the research? I mean, you mentioned talking to offenders, analyzing data sets, conducting field experiments. I mean, how does all that work?
Not easily, but what we try and do is we rely on the retailers a lot. Hey, here's where it hurts. Here's what's going on.
Sure.
Now we're going to talk through via working groups or on sidebars and find out what their needs are. Well, I'm having a big burglary problem here. This is what's going on. Okay, let's set up a spreadsheet. Can you guys populate this with data around these events? Things about the people that are carrying it on, things about how they're doing it, and then things about the environment at that time, because maybe there are things that we can look at. So we'll analyze data with them and look for opportunities. We don't just analyze, we're saying, okay, here, wow, this looks like something we could do something about. We review video footage of the incidents, whether it's robbery, shoplifting, employee theft, or burglary, or whatever. That helps us. Like football coaches, we go through all that, looking for opportunities. And then, all right, here's what we need to do. So let's do some innovation around it, or repurpose something, or combine it. Now let's trial it locally, where we can get some impact. How does it impact good customers? How does it impact employees that have to live with this stuff and operate it? And then make some tweaks. And then if they want, we can go to a field experiment, randomized, selection and assignment. You guys get treated, you don't, you're a placebo, and see what happens. And that's how we do it.
There you go. The LPRC was established by retailers. I mean, what are a couple of your urgent LP asset protection needs that you're working on?
Well, we try and put everything into a framework, and so right now, everybody's reporting violence is on the rise. I mean, whether it's robbery or panhandling in the parking lot where they're accosting people now, and or things are going on in the store. And we all know every day in the news we're seeing if it's going to happen and it's weird, it's going to happen in a store or near it. So that's how we're kind of picking up on these things. But it's getting a little more complex in how we do it.
Tom, you're heavily involved in driving multiple LPRC R&D initiatives alongside many of your colleagues. Can you describe how it works?
Yeah, so if you're a part of a working group, whether you're a leader, a co-leader, or a member, it starts really with what a problem. So if you have a problem, you can go to that group and discuss it in an open format and look for a solution. And one example I'll give is, Reed talked about violence and some of the civil disruption and the things that are occurring. So in the innovations lab, there's a SOC, so an emergency command center. So there's a video wall. And what we're doing today is we have a subgroup of the innovation group that's looking at, what information can you bring in that you can use to deliver a message back to the field. So it's one thing to put together this video wall that looks really beautiful and has all this information, but then what do you do? And most EOCs or SOCs are centralized. So we're taking in what are the best sources of information, how do you digest that information and then get it out in real time to people so that they can make decisions that will impact the business. That's one example of taking that violence and things that are going on and really looking at it a different way. The other thing I would say is that the Innovation Lab allows a small or a mid-sized retailer to go in and look at something before they try to do a proof of concept in their store. Actually go into the lab and see it in an environment. While it's a pseudo environment, it's still a store environment. They can touch it, feel it, and then work with the LPRC to actually put it in a location and see it live and grow and actually add feedback and really be a part of the process.
Now this SOC, if I may, Security Operations Center. Can you explain that a little bit and define it, give it a little bit of an identity?
Well, everybody's got one in some sort.
Sure.
We just did a survey and 20 or 30 chains responded. What do they call it? Is it always on or is it activated? And if it's activated, what activates it? And then, okay, what do you do? How do you handle it? So like Tom was mentioning, our job is to take a step back. Well, what do you want to know? And I mean, we have the gentleman that operates probably the most active in the world, and that's Walmart's. Hey, I want to learn how to get better and better. You know, we have a shooting, it happens in a store or parking lot, just happened in Orlando. Boom, you know, here's how we do things right now, but how could we make it more logical? So, you know, how do we more early and earlier detect something's happening before bang, before it happens, or more quickly at bang or after bang? All right, so it's detection, definition. We need to know a little bit about who, what, when, what's going on here, and then decide. So it's kind of detection, and then we've got definition and decision.
So it's a third-party analysis of their current SOCs, so to speak,
Right.
and the ability to be a neutral party, looking at it and the steps and the processes and the responses, and being able to give them some feedback as to how theirs is operating, and maybe some even suggestions on improving processes.
On processes,
Right,
right?
right.
Because, I mean, they all have things they do real
Right.
well, and then what we plan to do now is bi-monthly, we're going to kind of go around and do a virtual meeting of that group, and, you know, hey, you had this happen in Orlando or whatever. All right, what did you do? How did you do it? What are some things that you wish you'd done better or could have done better? Now let's, the whole group, let's talk about that. And then they go around and share that. In the meantime, we're back with our video wall, as you said, in our SOC lab. We're working on acquiring more and more technologies. We've got CIA and all these people coming to us, or ex-CIA, hey, we've got these things, we've got that. So we can put all the cool things in there, but then figure out how do you really use it in the real world.
Now, can you do this in tandem as an operation is happening with a retailer, so to speak?
I think that's possible. We're nowhere near that. In fact, tomorrow we'll be meeting in the Bloomies command center with, I don't know, a dozen retail chains, and we're going to be kind of talking through, what do you want to do? We have a mission statement. We've got all the things in that, detect, decide, or define and decide. Here's all the tools, and let's go through. What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? You know, we're going to have emergency physicians that we're going to talk to and have
Right.
them do, and all these people that make these high-risk decisions. What are things you do, and how do you do it?
Right.
So,
You know, Chad, where do we go from here? What does the LPRC need to do to continue to support you and your colleagues with cutting-edge LP asset protection R&D?
So we need more retailers involved in LPRC. We're always looking to grow the membership. We need vendor partners involved in LPRC. We know and understand today that when we bring the group together, we can solve problems. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, having people think differently about problem solving, Tom's a great example of that. 10 years ago, he would have been talking about dishonest employee cases. He doesn't think that way today. He thinks bigger. That's important to an organization. And it's not only building the strategy that Reed talks about, it's once you have that playbook, exercising that playbook. You don't know how your organization's going to react until you have that playbook, and that playbook is being exercised.
Right.
So we need involvement from other retailers, and you only get out of LPRC what you put into it. So if you come in, come all in.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.